Hi, everyone. Good evening. Today we are starting day 12. Um, we're going to look at uh, building classes. We already built a class yesterday called student, and we built a dictionary out, and we were able to process data in JSON. We were able to use the JSON module. Um, so we're going to work on having secondary classes and how they can talk to each other. And we're going to go over the inheritance concept, um, right? So that's pretty much what we're going to do, and we're going to augment this method a little bit. Uh, so let's run this program from yesterday, right? And we had a list of sample JSON over here that we passed in. Um, and it had uh, your name, program, and graduate, and your grades, and that was parsed by this process function. This process function takes in a sample JSON, which is this JSON. It runs this internal JSON payload inbuilt function that takes in a JSON string in this format, and then it parses that string into a dictionary, right? How do we know that it's a dictionary? Because the way that they are parsing the data, data is the object inside student data, right? So you took this whole thing and you loaded it into the student data, and the student data is basically three of these dictionaries inside. It's a list of dictionaries, right? And that's how they're being called. The keys are being called. Name, program, and grades. Name, program, and grades is being called, right? And then that specific information is being appended to this list over here, and the student objects list is being built out, right? And once the list is being built out, then the print statement is running on greet student first. So the greet student method up here prints out, hello, I'm Sean, and I'm a student at ASU, right? And then it runs that program, that function call within this function. So it's nested, right? This function is calling another function, um, right, from inside it during its operation. Um, so it's inherited this function call inside it, right? Um, and then it also has a series of print statements after that that it runs, right? And it prints out this information to the console that you're able to see over here, right? And that's basically like it parses student objects, which is created in line 49. So what's created in line 49 is printed in line from line 55 through 58, right? And you see that on the console right here, like that, right? Um, anyways, uh, what we can do is we can go over creation of um, what we can do is we can create another class, and then we can also write our output to a file with the OS library, which is a built-in Python library. Um, Here we go. Like from hovering over it, you can see what it does, right? Um, so let's uh, let's put a sample school name. Let's create a variable as a string. We'll call it I mean, you can use any university that you want to put whatever here, right? We have this greet function. The reason it's kind of whining a little bit is because we're not really using this anywhere so far, right? If we wrote a method to use that, it would immediately stop whining. Um, let's do, so we did greet student already, right? Let's write in the function over here that is to compute the GPA, right? So let's go up here and comment the school name because we don't need it just yet. We can write a function saying, hey, from such a school, Arizona State University, this is my GPA, right? Because we've already said that I'm a student here at this school, right? So we can write something like def compute GPA, right? Uh, if not in grades, is this correct? Oh, it is. Okay. Grades return 0.0. We already have this, so we don't need to write it again. Right. Okay, we have that here. We have compute grades. We have compute GPA. If we have these two functions, we can just use these two functions inside another function and call it. Let's do GPA. So we did compute GPA. Okay. Compute GPA. So this is your GPA object, right? So we can pass that into a function as well, right? We can do a moral check is on if we take in the GPA here, right, then we can return the GPA. If it's greater than the honor roll is usually 3 point. It's 3.9, 3.7. Let's just do 3.7. There we go. Information and name GPA. lines. There we go. Let's be using here. Where'd it go? Where'd it go, man? Okay, so we like so-and-so is a student in blah blah in department in blah 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 computer science department at blah 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 school. Maybe it's supposed to have this thing in here. I thought I didn't have to put a curly. Why is it whining? Oh my god, shouldn't it be out here outside? Like that. But still, school name, school underscore name. Why is this whining? Is it because it's been used somewhere else before? How many times? It should have only 2 uses. Why? Oh, because we can pass it into the function. We need to pass it into the function. It cannot be called. It cannot enter into the function, stay inside a function unless it comes in through the memory hole that's there in the function parameter. It has to be passed in as a variable in the function called on line 26 for it to be applicable to use on print. Because when you call the function, you have to build it out and pass this information to it, right? So now we get an if statement, right? So if is whoa. If so this is inheritance, right? So we're going to take this function, we're going to put it in the if statement right here, like that. If is in function role GPA, then, right? If this is true, so there is a GPA and there's an actual return for the function, right? So you're gonna do a print statement. You're gonna say, hey, and obviously, what did we just learn? Like we definitely have to use, or we can use GPA, right? So we can use that right there. We can use that in there, and then we can print something in there saying, oh, and we can also have access to name. We can use name also in here, right? So we can go something like this. Look, we have access to this too, right? Because in the net is nested, but it's all inside the function. So we could be like blah blah blah, whatever your name is, like blah blah blah, is the name is on the honor. We don't really need GPA, right? We can blah blah is on the honor roll with blah blah GPA. we could have put that, right? We could put an else statement. No, not an elif, right? So we're going directly to the else, though. So we're going to say, we could go something like this. We could give it a new line. Give it a new line here, like that. We give this a new line. You go. Name is not on the honor roll, right? Is on the honor roll, is not on the honor roll, right? He's not on the honor roll. Let's see if the code runs. School name hyphen. Okay, so obviously up here, another reason why it's whining is because it doesn't have an equal to sign. It had a weird. I fat fingered it, obviously. I made a mistake there. So let's try and run it. The code should run just fine. I mean, it's not printing anything out right now because we're just writing functions. So this called in a function and it used it as an if statement inside it, right? Let's write another class now, right? So let's write class person init, right? Let's say def init, right? Like that. And then you have to pass in the parameter of self name program, right? Like that. And you go self dot name is equal to name. If you remember how we did this, right? Self dot program is equal to program. Right. What are we going to print? So in here, we can do something like this. We can do self dot. Okay, so name program, right? So hi, I'm blah blah blah. Blah 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 at ASU, and I'm in the blah 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 computer science program. Full stop. Right. And then we have these two. We have this, we have this, we have this. That's calling this, right? So what can we put in the brackets if we're going to do inheritance, right? We just create a class. So we're going to put person in here. And then what did person have? Person had name and program already in it. Grades, when we do the function call later, we're going to pass the grades in, right? Right. So think that for a second. Way to do this is grades and GPA. So we're doing grades and GPA. And name and program. We could do a super, right? That's a good way to do it. That is a fantastic way to do it. Super init. I think there's a dot here. Yep, super init. And then in here, we're going to pass in whatever's person. So okay. So this is important as far as inheritance goes, and as far as the attributes and initialization of one class inside another class goes. The super method, when you call student, you're first going to have to build person, right? And then you're going to call student. But if you call student directly, its initializer inside it has all the data from the init of person because it takes in person. So student won't work till you create the person class, and then you have to feed that into your student when you initialize student. But when you're feeding it in, it's going to inherit all of the attributes that are initialized that were passed to the function once. So you're gonna only have to pass your attributes once. You're not gonna have to pass your attributes multiple times. So if you pass them in the beginning to person, so you go person bracket, and then you put your name in there like Sean and grades and GPA. Everything once, right? And then go dot, and then you go student, and it automatically passes that in here. And then from student, the moment you type in student, this super is already initialized inside it. That's going to take in name and program right now. So you'll see right here. You see this right here. We have the ability to put name program directly in here, right? Because up here when we did person, we gave name and program, right? So that should complete it. Let me just cross check this really quick for us. Right. We're gonna comment this. So this is gonna put 40 little dashes over here. That calls process, and process calls student, and student has an inheritance inside it of think. Don't do this. It doesn't like student class, right? So where is line 61? It's erroring out over here. Yeah, it doesn't. This is the one that needs to be fixed, right? Why is this? This does take us because student was unchanged. We have name, program, and grades. So we shouldn't have this error here. Let's initialize this. Let's run our debugger here. Let's see what our problem is. Here, are we able to create these objects? Okay, student data. Let's look at student data. What is not created? So student data with the sample JSON got created. Student objects got created. So let's try student data again. Okay, for data in student data. Print data. That's all the data. Create a student class. We just need to copy this right here. I think it doesn't know what grades is because actually it should, because data has grades inside. It has these three lists, right? So it should take this, no problem. Okay, so this is the problem. It can't, the super init is causing problems here, the initialization of name and program. Name, program, and grades. So name and program is the only thing that it has. So maybe if I remove grades. It takes it all. See the super, what was the error? Scripter requires a super object, but receives a string. Did I mistype this? No, I did. It's a function. Smallest typos, I swear to God. Okay, so it's able to print this out and go through this. Okay, so this works. Now it works, right? I wasn't calling this super function. I was just doing super dot in it, negative. So that's problematic. Okay, we have this done. Do we really have anything else left to cover? So we did classes and inheritance. What we can do is we can do, we did import OS, if you guys remember, right? The reason you import OS is if you save a JSON file, right? So what do you want to call it? We want to call this output over here that we're doing. We want to write this into, we want to write that into a JSON file, right? So we are able to take in the string as we can, right? So let's give it a file name that we want to call it, right? So we're gonna call it like day 12 student info.json, right? Because we're gonna write a JSON file. We're gonna do current directory, right? Which is the OS method dot path dot directory name, and then we're gonna do what is it? OS dot. Okay, let's run a debugger here really quick. We're gonna have to create this object, and I don't really know the syntax for it. So let's go over here. Let's go to current dir. Okay, so just so you guys see what's happened so far, file name, it's not run. It's not been copied over. So copy this, put this over here. Okay, now we can get the file name, right? So we're going to give this file name. We want to create a os.path dot dir name. What happened? What happened, man? We're going to run this function like this. It's not giving you, missing one argument, which is os.path.abs path. So os.path.abs path. Absolute path. How do you do Google find current dir of file in Python? Okay. There you go. Right? Dir path is equal to this. That's the code. Do that. Type in the directory path that you have, workspace Python basics. So current dir is equal to this right here. This is literally the easiest way to use debugger to check code, right? So we got the current path. So what would be the name path of this file, right? It would be inside the Python basics directory. We're able to see that over here under workspaces. That's where we are. We're under workspaces under this, right? On solid train. So we just want to do dash workspaces / Python basics / and then the file name, right? So how do you do that? You use the join function, right? When you want to join stuff like this together, you do the join. You run the join on a path. So you do OS path join, right? So you do something like this: full path equals to os dot join, like this. Os dot path join, dude. Path. Is it really? Okay, like that. Right, and then what you do is current directory, and then file name, right, and that should give you your full path. We know what the file name is. We know what the current, or it's full path. No, man, what was up here for the, it's dir path. Okay, so doom, doom, doom. There you go. Right, that's what full path is. We call the current directory, not directory path or whatever, right? So we can go up here, we can go up here, we can go print full path, right? We can run it, it's going to print the whole path over here, right? Okay, so then beforehand, we want to give a new line. Okay, there's full path. After two. That's the full path, right? So that's where we want to write the file, right? If you see, so the idea is that we want to write this JSON file, and we want to write all of this data that we're parsing over here into this file. So the first thing we do is we gotta figure out the path, right? So we got the path that we want to write a file to, and we have the file name, right? Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna write the Python OS write code to generate a file with the file name and write student data from the sample JSON to the target file, right? So we've run operation JSON loads already on this, right? On this string, and it loaded it directly into a dictionary. So the JSON loads function works by loading stuff into a dictionary. We know that, right? So we're going to write a function, right? We're going to say save, I don't know, students to having a split keyboard is it's a little bit of a so what we're going to do is we're going to write a try except block, right? Except exception as E, right? Except exception as E, and then print what the exception is inside of F string. What's it going to take? E, right? Not D, E. And we're going to put an error has occurred, like that, right? So that's the structure of the try and except exception catcher, right? Inside it, we can write the code, right, which is with open. This is how it works, right? Full path. It's saying, look at all these options that you have, right? So this is all the writing operations you have, and we would just want to write. So we want to write, right? And what do we want to write it as, right? We want to write as F, just some object F, right? So we or file, we can call it with open full path write as file. Right? We can do that. We can do that, right? So and then we can go list object is equal to JSON loads sample JSON, right? Print wow. Print why is list, right? So with open this, write this list to a file and print it, right? Now, what's the problem with this? The problem with this is I think to stop the debugger to run. Okay, so the first issue that we're having is that we're not calling this function, right? So save students to file has to be called just like that, right? And then it'll run it, and then it should give you this file, but there's nothing inside this file. It printed everything to the console, but it didn't write it into the file. Why didn't it write it into the file? An error didn't happen. I'm pretty sure that you can't write a list to a file. You have to write a string to a file. String to write. JSON load takes a string, bytes, and byte array, right? But dumps takes in an object, ASCII check class, and then separates default and keys. But maybe it's dump. Dump takes in a list. No. Class dumps takes in a list. Which one takes in a list? Dump or dumps? So what dumps? What JSON function takes in a dictionary list and puts out a string to write to a JSON file, right? Convert a list of dictionaries to JSON, geeks for geeks. JSON dumps data and indent. JSON dumps data, which is list, indent, it's asking me for an indent, like that. Okay, so it's going to write this to the file. Here's the link. Okay. That we use. Okay, so let's do this really. Let's see if it writes this list object. It prints it. So file dot write. What are we gonna write? We're gonna write list. So we created the file. We're gonna write this inside the file. Did it do it? No. And this is my suspicion, right? That this thing right here should be the string. So what you do is you go here, you go X, here you paste it, and you change this list just string to write, right? Boom. And there it is. There's the data inside the string in a JSON format indented to 4 because we were able to pass so I know this from experience. You can only write a string into a file with JSON because think about it. The JSON library is taking sample JSON that is in a string format and then manipulating it into a list or dictionary. So it makes sense that you go backwards to all the way to a string and then write it in places. And then when it's writing inside the JSON, it internally does the manipulation in the JSON dumps function and adds the indent to it to make it pretty, and then writes that object, that string to write directly to the file with the file.write command, right? So that's writing to files. And you could, I don't know. You could do a load as well, really quick. You could read it. So just how you have this open function, you have a read function as well in Python that you can use to read files. So this file, if you give this file's path, it'll just read it, right? With open full path, instead of this, just give it read, right? So let's give it a fresh function here. Let's call this one underneath this one here outside. So with open full path read as file, and what we call this read students from file X, boom, with open this as file. So we're reading it, right? File data is equal to JSON load. We're gonna load the file, right? So I give it file because we have the file path, and that's the file that we're loading. Return list student for D in data, in file data. D square name. What else is there? Program. Name program grades. Grades. This should say print, right? It returns a list, right? So we can go student list object is equal to call this read students from file. We call the function, and then we go for student in student list object and student what is wrong with name program grades for D in file data. Unhashable type list. What did I do? What did you do wrong, buddy? The function doesn't have file path, right? It doesn't have full path. So full path is essential for the function to run, right? So here, when you call it, you have to pass this variable up top. The path build needs to be passed into this function. Again, so that's a problem while programming. Like if you don't see your objects. You know how to build your program, but you don't put certain pieces in because you forget how to, like, I mean, the function is calling full path in line 100, but in 99, if you don't pass full path in, and when you call the function, if you don't pass in full path, how is it going to do all of this string list comprehension to build this student list to then iterate it, right? And you have to save it. Still whining. Read students from file, student list object. Read students from file, full path. Just directly just have to be the file name, I think. File name. I have to check if file name will directly work. It won't. Okay, so we're gonna have to debug it right here, and we're gonna do in the opening of the file, right? So we should pass the whole path to the file, right? That's just how it should work, right? The full path, not just the file name, the full path. Rerun this thing. Let's go over here. Open this with open as file. That doesn't work. It's an indentation error. That's the same error again with the list, right? So student is taken for D in file data, right? So let's go over here and see if file data got created. So let's see what's in file data. File data. It's read the file successfully, right? So if you comment out this right there and you just return file data, this is going to print out all the students in file data right there, just like that. There you go. Why is it got this weird line through it? Okay. I don't know why it has that strange line through it, but if you directly look at file data, it's printed everything in there. That's it, right? I'm gonna have to do this comprehension right there. Okay, so that takes care of our inheritance for day 12. And we also were able to do, we were able to call one class another, we were able to call functions another, we were able to use the super method, which is the initialization of one class inside the other with this. and the parameters got called. So, and if you notice, person got just passed in the student, and then only student got called. We didn't even call person, right? So if you see, so we just called person, we passed person in twice, and we only call the student class directly, right? So we can go here. You can see in line 71 it got called directly, right? And that was about it. And it had the inheritance in it to pull everything from person, and pass it on onto its subfunctions whenever we call them, right? So that's looking at one class feeding into the other, and we're looking at how the superfunction works. We looked at that. Tomorrow we will continue on with classes, and get into more file reading and writing, input and output operations. So I will see you guys tomorrow, in the stream, and then we'll pick up where we left off today, and we'll